Part 1. Adapted Novel Content. Chapter 1. We agreed this was just a contract marriage. You use me to get your family off your back. I get paid. In a year we file for divorce and go our separate ways. Right? Sitting across from me, the most famous, untouchable ice queen of our campus nodded enthusiastically. I really thought my senior, Victoria, was doing me a solid by giving me a highly lucrative side hustle. That is, until our wedding night. I stepped out of the shower only to hear the bedroom door being locked from the inside. Victoria was lounging there in a silk nightgown, smiling like a sly fox. Liam, the contract is useless, but you are very useful. Be a good boy and take your clothes off. Victoria, we had a deal. This was strictly to fend off your parents' matchmaking. Oh, you're so naive, she purred. Since you've already made it onto my legal family registry, you might as well make it a little deeper into the family. Click. The sound of the deadbolt sliding into place was deafening in the quiet bedroom. I stared at the solid oak door, jiggling the handle. It didn't budge. I spun around. Victoria was leaning against the headboard. The black silk of her nightgown shimmered in the dim, atmospheric lighting. The neckline plunged dangerously low. Her usual frigid, untouchable persona had completely vanished, replaced by something entirely seductive. I swallowed hard, trying to reason with her. Victoria, you're the notorious ice queen of Boston University. If word gets out that you're forcing yourself on a guy, your entire reputation will be ruined. Victoria stepped onto the plush carpet barefoot, closing the distance between us. Her perfume was subtle, but incredibly aggressive. Reputation? She let out a soft laugh, tapping a manicured finger against my still damp chest. That's for outsiders. You're an insider. It's different. How is it different? My throat felt like sandpaper. I didn't dare look directly into those captivating eyes. Outsiders just get to look at the packaging. Insiders. Her hand trailed slowly down my abs. Get to inspect the merchandise. I grabbed her wrist. My heart was hammering against my ribs, but I tried to sound tough. Victoria Sterling. Section 4 of the contract explicitly states that Party B is only required to act as a buffer against family pressure. 0 physical contact. The penalty for breach of contract is $1 million. Raya, like a magician, her free hand produced the printed contract from behind her back. Right in front of my face, she tore it straight down the middle, then ripped it again. Confetti-sized pieces of paper fluttered to the floor. Hey, my money. I instinctively dropped to my knees to grab the scraps. That was my safety net. That was the guarantee of my dignity. Taking advantage of my distraction, Victoria lunged, pinning me flat against the wall. She was tall, and in that moment, her sheer presence was completely overwhelming. She had me, a 6-foot-tall guy, completely immobilized. 1 million. She leaned into my ear, her breath hot against my skin. I'll give you 2 million. Given to me tonight. How about it? My brain short-circuited for a full second. $2 million? For a broke college student surviving on odd jobs and instant ramen. That number was enough to make me eagerly stomp all over my own dignity. But Liam Carter, had boundaries. You think money solves everything? I snapped, stiffening my neck. Do you think I'm doing this for the cash? I'm doing this for what? She pressed her knee subtly between my legs. Saving yourself for someone else? For my deadbeat best friend? Or maybe for that little girl next door character in your novel? I froze completely. How did she know I wrote web fiction? While I was stunned, Victoria grabbed the knot of my towel. Just stop struggling, Liam. Tonight, you either sleep in the bed, or I sleep with you. Pick one. Where was the aloof campus goddess? This was basically a female mob boss. I gripped my towel for dear life. I'm sleeping on the floor. The floor is nice and cool. I run hot. Victoria arched an eyebrow. Suit yourself. She turned and sauntered toward the king-size bed, her hips swaying. Just as she climbed under the covers, she tossed a remark over her shoulder. The floor is definitely cold, but this room is practically soundproof. If you freeze and start sneezing, I won't hear a thing. But if your parents come in tomorrow morning and see me sleeping on the floor, a threat, a naked threat. I gritted my teeth. You win, Victoria. I marched over to the bed and laid down stiffly on the very edge, my body rigid as a board, leaving a massive chasm of space between us. When she turned off the lamp, the darkness amplified every sense. The sound of her breathing drifted closer. Suddenly, a warm arm draped over my chest, followed by a soft, yielding body that wrapped tightly around me. Don't move, I warned, about to push her away. She whispered in the dark. Let me hold you. I'll Venmo you 10 grand. The hand I had raised to push her away stalled in midair. 10 grand? For a hug? Slowly, my arm dropped back down. I might have even shimmied a fraction of an inch closer. Just a hug. Not an inch more. I heard my own spineless voice say. Good boy. Victoria chuckled softly, burying herself fully against my chest, resting her head on my arm. Her breath tickled the crook of my neck. I lay there paralyzed, reciting the alphabet backwards in my head to keep my thoughts pure. I'm doing this for the money. Not because she's soft. Definitely not because she's soft. But the person in my arms wasn't behaving. Her hand began to wander, tracing the line of my waist. Victoria, you said just a hug. That's gonna cost extra. Charge me, she mumbled, her voice thick with a triumphant smile. I'll give you every cent I make for the rest of my life. The next morning, I woke up because I couldn't breathe. I opened my eyes to find myself in a literal chokehold, my face buried in a sea of softness. The sensation. I jolted completely awake and scrambled backward. Victoria propped her head on her hand, blinking sleepily. Her hair tumbled over her shoulders in a messy, gorgeous cascade. The face that usually intimidated half the student body was currently flushed with lazy, morning-after allure. You're awake? She murmured, her voice raspy with sleep. I yanked the duvet up to my chin. Why were you sleeping on top of me? You're the one who refused to let go of me last night. She flipped the script without missing a beat, pointing to her own waist. Look, you squeezed me so tight there are red marks. I glanced down. There were, in fact, faint red marks. Did I sleepwalk? Before my existential crisis could fully manifest, she threw off the covers and slid out of bed. Get up. Time for breakfast. Then I'm dropping you off at campus. At the dining table, I stared at the extravagant spread of food, then down at my phone's banking app. I had just received a massive direct deposit from Victoria, my overnight fee. This is way too luxurious, I muttered, picking up my fork and trying to salvage my frugal persona. I could just grab a bacon, egg, and cheese from the dining hall. Victoria picked up a piece of perfectly seared sausage and held it to my lips. Open. I clamped my mouth shut. I have hands. $1,000. I opened my mouth and chewed. Damn, it was delicious. I mumbled through a mouthful of food. Living the kept man life might be a hit to the pride, but my teeth are strong enough to chew through it. Victoria Vinth. If the legions of guys at school who worshipped her could see that smile, their hearts would shatter. After breakfast, she tossed me a set of keys. A Porsche. My hand trembled, almost dropping them. I'm not driving this. It's too flashy. I'll just take a Lime bike. Victoria slipped on her heels, replying breezily. Do you really want me sitting on the back of your rental bike, paraded in front of the whole school, so tomorrow's headlines can read, Boston U's Ice Queen goes broke? I picture the scene. The social damage of that would definitely be worse than showing up in a Porsche. Fine, I'll drive. I clutched the keys, pretending to wipe a tear. I'm bearing this heavy burden purely to protect your honor. I parked the car in the most remote lot on campus. I unbuckle my seatbelt, ready to sprint. I'll go first. You wait 5 minutes before you get out. Victoria reached over and grabbed me by the collar. Just then, a group of guys from my major walked by the window, staring open-mouthed at the scene inside the car. Your collar's crooked. Victoria meticulously adjusted my shirt, her movements painfully intimate. To finish it off, she gave my cheek a fond pinch. Be good. Wait for me after your classes. Don't wander off. I watched the guys outside practically drop their textbooks in shock. It was over. My reputation was dead and buried. Walking back into the dorm felt like escaping a war zone. My roommate, Josh, sniffed the air aggressively and cornered me. Liam, what's that smell? That's high-end perfume. And the fabric on that shirt isn't from H&M. I backed away guiltily. What perfume? It's bug spray. They were fumigating the quad this morning. Bug spray smells like Tom Ford. Josh crossed his arms, wearing an expression of absolute clarity. Spill it. You didn't come home last night. Did you get yourself a sugar mommy? Screw off. Do I look like that kind of guy? My phone vibrated. An iMessage from Victoria. The first text was an aggressively cute kitten gif. The second text, hubby, miss you already. Red heart. The third text was a selfie of her at her internship office, surrounded by stacks of paperwork with the caption, making money to spoil you is exhausting. Need a hug. My hand jerked so hard I nearly dropped the phone on my face. Who would have guessed that the terrifying, unsmiling former student body president was privately a clingy mess? What was even more shocking was when Victoria's best friend, Chloe Jenkins, suddenly popped up at the door of my lecture hall. She waved me over with a highly secretive look on her face. I braced myself and walked out into the hall. Chloe looked left and right, then shoved a box into my hands. I squinted at the label, Premium Maca Root Stamina Supplements. Me? Stay strong, brother. Chloe patted my shoulder, speaking with the gravity of a war general. I know how Victoria gets, she whispered. She's been single for over 2 decades. Now that the floodgates are open, she's going to be relentless. She's been waiting for you for a long time. It was love at first sight for her. So, my professional diagnosis is that you're doomed. Even my boyfriend couldn't handle me when we first started dating, and you look kind of scrawny. You gotta hold the line. I open my mouth, indignant. Hey, who says I can't handle it? Don't give me that attitude. I'm in your graduating class. I'm not Victoria. Then she flashed a wicked, teasing grin, trailing a finger lightly over my chest. Really? Think you can find a time to let me test that theory? Just kidding. Chapter 2. Chloe burst out laughing. Good luck out there. Make sure you keep Victoria thoroughly fed before you even think about feeding anyone else. I stood in the breezeway, holding a box of stamina pills, completely shattered by the wind. The moment the bell rang, I sprinted for the campus gates. I wasn't running to meet Victoria. I was running to escape her. If I ran fast enough, she couldn't catch me. But I clearly underestimated the raw power of limitless wealth. The second I cleared the gates, the familiar Porsche cut smoothly across my path. The window rolled down. Victoria was wearing aviators, one hand casually resting on the steering wheel, looking like an absolute boss. Get in. Students were already pointing and whispering. Isn't that Victoria Sterling's car? Who's the guy? Why is he getting in her car? Desperate to avoid becoming a TikTok spectacle, I yanked the door open, dove into the passenger seat, and buried my face in my hands. Victoria, you're ruining me. I still have to show my face around here. Victoria slammed on the gas, the engine roaring as we pulled away. She reached over with one hand and ruffled my hair affectionately. There. I'll kneel on a keyboard when we get home to apologize. But first, I'm taking you somewhere. Where? I'm not going. To buy that limited edition Marvel statue you've been whining about all month. My head snapped up instantly. Seriously? I had been salivating over that collectible for ages. It was just so absurdly expensive that even 6 months of my web novel ad revenue wouldn't cover a fraction of it. Nope. Victoria's Mirkiv. Just messing with you. I started to slump back down into the seat. I'm serious. It's already paid for. We just have to go pick it up. Me. This is what it felt like to be completely, hopelessly manipulated. Once we hit the luxury mall, Victoria gave a masterclass on how to be a domineering CEO from a romance novel. If I glanced at something for more than a second, she swiped her card. If I looked twice at a jacket, it was boxed up. I merely paused to look at a high-end massage chair, and she immediately asked the sales rep about home delivery. This is way too much. I have hands and feet. I grumbled, trailing behind her while carrying an absolute mountain of shopping bags. I was complaining, but the corners of my mouth were threatening to cramp from smiling so hard. This sugar baby lifestyle was dangerously addictive. You have hands and feet so you can hold me, not so you can do chores, Victoria said, glancing back at me. She pushed her sunglasses up onto her head, revealing eyes crinkled in amusement. What? Feeling sorry for my bank account. I'm feeling sorry for my dignity as a man. I shot back stubbornly. Everyone's going to say I'm entirely funded by my wife. Let them talk. They're just jealous. When we finally got back to the penthouse, I collapsed onto the sofa in exhaustion. Victoria actually went into the study, brought out a mechanical keyboard, threw it on the floor, and prepared to kneel on it. Whoa. I shot up like I'd been electrocuted, grabbing her arms to pull her up. Are you really going to kneel? I was just joking. If she actually knelt, my nightmare would truly begin. This woman held grudges. If she knelt on a keyboard today, there was no telling how she'd torture me tonight. Sensing her opportunity, Victoria let her body go soft, collapsing gracefully into my arms. You're the best, hubby. Don't call me hubby. It gives me goosebumps. What should I call you then? Baby? Sweetheart? Darling? Just use my name. Okay, Lyrom. My name is Liam Carter. That sickly sweet baby voice nearly sent me into the afterlife. After dinner, she changed clothes, not into pajamas, but into a semi-translucent lace camisole that left very little to the imagination. Everything that needed to be covered was technically covered, but the things that didn't, well, they weren't exactly hidden either. Watch a movie with me. She grabbed the remote and forcefully turned off every single light in the living room. Watch what? I shrank defensively into the corner of the sectional. The Conjuring. Me? Late at night, just the two of us, dressed like that, watching a horror movie? Are you trying to scare the ghosts? Or are you trying to end me? The movie started. The second the creepy sound design kicked in, Victoria let out a theatrical scream and dove entirely into my lap. So scary. There's a ghost. Her acting was incredibly terrible. I looked down. She was smiling. The corners of her mouth were practically touching her ears. Victoria, the demon on screen, isn't smiling half as wide as you are. I deadpanned, utterly unamused. I'm smiling out of terror, she insisted, refusing to break character. She wrapped both arms tight around my waist, burying her face into my chest and rubbing affectionately. Hold me tight. I'm scared of the dark. If you're scared of the dark, why did you turn off all the lights? It's called setting the mood, obviously. I tried to push her away, but she only clung tighter, her body pressed flush against mine, the heat radiating through the paper-thin fabric, setting my nerves entirely on fire. A pale, horrifying face flashed across the screen. I instinctively flinched. Victoria tilted her head up. In the flickering, eerie light of the TV, her eyes were intensely bright. Liam, yeah, I'm not scared of ghosts anymore. Can you let go of me then? But now I feel like eating someone alive. Before I could process that sentence, she shifted her weight, straddling my lap completely, and cupped my face with both hands. Our breathing tangled. Victoria, I have an 8 a.m. lecture tomorrow. My last shred of rational thought fought for its life. She leaned down, her teeth grazing my Adam's apple, her voice a sultry murmur. I'll email your professor for you. You're not sleeping tonight. I want to start making a family. With the atmosphere dialed up to an 11, if I didn't react now, I have to turn in my man card. But Victoria had clearly come prepared. She reached under the coffee table and pulled out a bottle of red wine. Drink. I figured if I got blackout drunk, I could just go to sleep. Or if I got her drunk, I could make a run for it. I puffed out my chest. We'll eat. 2 glasses down. I completely forgot that I possessed the alcohol tolerance of a Victorian child. The living room started to spin. 1 Victoria turned into 3 Victorias, and every single one of them was breathtaking. Liam. She cradled my cheeks. Her eyes were hazy but deeply emotional, her thumb lightly tracing the line on my lower lip. Did you really think I just dragged some random guy off the street to marry me? I slurred my words slightly. Wasn't it 'cause I'm hot? There are plenty of hot guys, she laughed softly, her voice dipping into a dangerous, tempting register. But I've been obsessed with you for 2 full years. I offered a goofy, drunken smile. 2 years? Back then, I was just a freshman. Yeah, freshman orientation. You got lost and asked me for directions. Victoria's voice dropped to a whisper. You were carrying this massive backpack. I was sweating in the sun, and you flashed this incredibly goofy smile, opened an umbrella just to shade me, and said, "Thanks, senior. I did that." You did. Suddenly, her tone pivoted, sharpening into something lethal. Also, that web fiction you write online. Where did my ice queen go? I sobered up instantly, my eyes blowing wide with sheer terror. How did you know that was my Wattpad alias? That was my darkest secret. To pay for groceries, I had self-indulged in writing an urban romance starring the school's untouchable goddess. In the beginning, I wrote her beautifully, but later, to drive up engagement and plot tension, I killed her off. I had her fall into an open manhole and drown. The character of Victoria, that's based on me, right? I'm literally the top Patreon supporter for that story. Her eyes narrowed into slits as her fingernail trailed menacingly down my collarbone. I really love that character. So tell me, Mr. Author, why did you have to kill me off in such an ugly way? I shivered violently. It was for the plot. It was to elevate the protagonist's tragic arc. I needed the reader's tears. Oh, was it for the plot? Or was it because you couldn't have me in real life, so you took your revenge in fiction? No, no, no. I just wanted to boost my ad revenue. I wanted to buy that Marvel statue. In that case, she leaned in so close our lips were practically brushing. How do you plan to repay me for taking my life? I swallowed hard. I'll write a resurrection arc. No need to overcomplicate things. With a sudden burst of strength, she shoved me flat onto the sofa. Towering over me, her full, terrifying queen bee aura was unleashed. You can pay me back in flesh. That night, there was no fake marriage contract. There was no aloof, untouchable campus goddess. There was only a woman who had meticulously plotted her trap for years, finally devouring the prey she had been starving for. The rest of the night blurred into a heated collision of skin and surrender. I only remember the ragged whisper she let slip when a fever pitch finally broke. Liam Carter, you are never escaping me. It was true. I couldn't escape, mostly because I had zero intention of trying. When her lips came crashing down, consuming every rational thought in my head, I only knew one thing for certain. I was going to live this kept man lifestyle for the rest of my life, and heaven help anyone who tried to stop me. The morning sun stabbed painfully in my eyes. I tried to roll over, only to realize my lower back was screaming in agonizing soreness. Victoria, on the other hand, looked radiant, energized, glowing, and practically skipping into the bedroom, carrying a steaming bowl of dark, ominous liquid. Awake, she chirped. I pulled the duvet over my head in a fit of absolute despair. Victoria Sterling, are you an actual succubus draining my life force? Be a good boy. Sit up and drink your broth. She yanked the covers down. It's an organic oyster and ginseng stamina broth. I simmered it just for you. I stared at the bowl, feeling my pride as a man take a catastrophic, critical hit. I'm not drinking that. I'm in perfect health. Are you sure about that? She gave me a thoroughly wicked, knowing look. Who was it crying for mercy at the end last night, saying they couldn't go another round? My face ignited in a brilliant shade of crimson. I was just out of form. I drank too much wine. Right, whatever you say. You're the strongest. She coddled me like a toddler, lifting the spoon to my lips. Drink this up, and tonight you can prove yourself all over again. Me? I'll drink it. Fine, I'll drink it. After the soup, she insisted on dressing me herself. I have hands, but I like helping you. She buttoned my shirt, taking every possible opportunity to cop a feel. When we left for campus, she didn't care who was watching. She immediately looped her arm through mine. Honestly, I felt a little thrill of pride. So why did you pick me? I couldn't help but ask. Because you're an idiot. She squeezed the center of my palm. An adorable idiot. Easy to catch. When we got to the lecture hall, my eyelids were doing battle with gravity. Victoria was a senior. She definitely didn't have classes this early, but she insisted on squeezing into the back row with me anyway. I passed out on the desk to catch up on sleep, and she sat right next to me, diligently taking all my notes. Chapter 3. In my half-asleep haze, I felt someone tapping my shoulder. I woke up to find my Instagram feed exploding. Victoria had posted a photo of me sleeping at the desk. She had added a little cartoon filter and even drew a fake drop of drool in the corner of my mouth. The caption read, "The house pet fell asleep. Want to poke him?" The comments were a unified wall of people screaming about how cute it was or complaining about being force-fed public displays of affection. Josh was having a meltdown in the comment section. Liam Carter, did you go to class to learn or to commit acts of cruelty against the single population? Single people have rights. I almost replied, bro, if you want this blessing, you can take it. My back is killing me. The good times barely lasted 2 days before trouble came knocking. On Saturday morning, the doorbell rang aggressively. Victoria was still dead to the world in bed. She kicked me in the calf and mumbled at me to get the door. I rubbed my sleep-crusted eyes, pulled the door open, and sobered up instantly. Standing on the threshold was a middle-aged man in a sharp, bespoke suit. He radiated a terrifying, natural authority. His facial features were a 70% match to Victoria's, but his eyes were like hawk talons. Mr. Sterling. Good morning, sir. I snapped to attention, a cold sweat breaking out on my neck. Mr. Sterling looked me up and down, scrutinizing every inch of me like an IRS auditor. So you're the one? You're the punk who? The kid who stole my little girl? Dad. Victoria charged out of the bedroom in her pajamas and practically launched herself onto Mr. Sterling's back, acting like a spoiled kid. Why didn't you text me you were coming? The man who had just looked ready to order a hit on me instantly dissolved into a puddle of smiles, his face crinkling with joy. Oh, careful, sweetheart, careful. Dad's bad back. I stood awkwardly to the side, feeling completely unnecessary. At the dining table, the atmosphere was thick with tension. Mr. Sterling reverted to his terrifying CEO persona and began the interrogation. Where are you from? Local, sir. Right here in Boston. What do your parents do? Blue-collar workers. Factory jobs. Do you know how to cook? Yes, sir. Do you know how to do laundry? Yes, sir. Can you tolerate Vicky's atrocious temper? I'm used to it. Mr. Sterling abruptly slammed his fork down and glared at me. My heart went into overdrive. My brain frantically cycled through the standard romance novel scripts for dealing with an angry billionaire father. When he inevitably pulled out the check for $1 million and told me to leave his daughter, I needed to firmly reject it with backbone, delivering a speech about how love couldn't be bought. Suddenly, Mr. Sterling lunged forward and grabbed both of my hands. His eyes were swimming with genuine tears. Good boy. We finally found a sucker. I mean a saint. Me? This script felt completely wrong. Mr. Sterling looked highly emotional. That girl is an absolute menace at home. You have no idea what her mother and I have been through. She screams when she reads her online books, acts completely unhinged, jumps around like a lunatic. She belongs in an asylum. Aside from having a pretty face, she's nothing but flaws. Lazy, gluttonous, vicious, and refuses to leave the house. Victoria protested loudly from the other end of the table. Dad, I'm not that bad. Zip it. Mr. Sterling barked at her before whipping his head back to me. He reached into his tailored suit jacket, pulled out a black Amex card, and forcefully shoved it into my palm. Here it is. The $1 million breakup fee. There is $1 million on this card. Mr. Sterling's tone was dead serious. Consider it emotional damage compensation. You have to take it. Try your best not to return her. Absolutely do not divorce her. As long as you keep her out of our house, so my wife and I can enjoy our peace and quiet. I'll write you into the Sterling family will. I stared at the black card in my hand, completely lost for words. Sir, I don't think this is appropriate. We're truly in love. Don't talk to me about feelings. It devalues the money. Mr. Sterling waved a hand dismissively. Just view this as an act of charity on my part. If she ever steps out of line and bullies you, you call me. I won't intervene, but I will wire you the cash to pay for your hospital bills. I looked at the card, then up at Victoria, who was massaging her temples in pure frustration. After we ushered the ecstatic Mr. Sterling out the door, Victoria plopped onto the sofa, puffing her cheeks in annoyance. My dad is committing blatant slander. I quietly slipped the Amex card into my wallet, then looked at her with total sincerity. Absolutely. You are gentle, domestic, and an exceptional homemaker. He really impressed upon me how much I need to cherish you. Victoria squinted at me. Really, really, super really. I leaned down and kissed her cheek. Wife, our dad is incredibly generous. How should we spend this million? We'll get you that limited edition gaming rig, and the rest goes toward your stamina supplements. Me? Can we please stop bringing up the supplements? Victoria went to take a shower, leaving the study door ajar. I wandered in to grab a textbook, but while reaching for the top shelf, I accidentally knocked over a vintage metal tin. Clang! The tin hadn't been clasped shut. Its contents spilled all over the hardwood floor. I crouched down to pick the items up, but my hands froze mid-air. They were photos. Stacks of them. All candid shots of me. Freshman year orientation, looking tan in my gym clothes, mouth wide open while chugging from a water bottle. Sophomore year track meet. Collapsed on the turf after the 3-mile run. I was practically rolling back in exhaustion. Sitting in the dining hall, a grain of rice stuck to my cheek. Dozens of pictures of me asleep at library desks, drooling onto my textbooks. There was even a frayed basketball sweatband I thought I'd lost 2 years ago, neatly preserved inside a Ziploc bag. A chill ran down my spine. This wasn't a crush. This was the work of a psycho stalker. My hands shook slightly as I cracked open a thick, leather-bound journal that had fallen from the tin. The first entry was dated 2 years ago. Freshman orientation today. A goofy kid got lost and asked me where the guys' dorms were. He has the most beautiful smile. His eyes sparkle. I want to kidnap him and hide in my house. I flipped to the middle of the journal. Saw him laughing with that childhood friend girl of his. Annoyed. I want to shave her head. Restrain yourself, Victoria. You must be elegant. Play the long game. The most recent entry, from just a few weeks ago. He doesn't need money, but money is all I have. So I'll bury him in it until he's dizzy. If he refuses to marry me, I'm just going to tranquilize him, drag him to my basement, and lock him up where only I can see him. I was breaking out in a cold sweat. So I had been in mortal peril this entire time. This wasn't a sweet campus romance. This was an episode of Dateline waiting to happen. What are you looking at? A freezing voice sliced through the silence behind me. I whipped around. Victoria was standing in the doorway, wrapped only in a bath towel. Her hair was dripping wet, and her eyes were terrifyingly dark and unreadable. Pure instinct kicked in. I shoved the journal behind my back, trying to hide it, but it was painfully obvious I'd been caught. Oh, hey, Victoria. I can explain. The box just fell on its own. Victoria closed the distance in 3 strides. Her face was flushed, but it was entirely from absolute mortification. Don't look at that. That's private property. Give it back. She lunged to grab it. Using my height advantage, I held the journal high above my head, wrapping my other arm securely around her waist to pull her against me. So, it turns out my untouchable ice queen is actually a creepy little stalker. I teased her, though honestly, my chest felt incredibly warm. How intensely must someone love you to document all those mundane, embarrassing moments you didn't even remember yourself? Realizing she couldn't reach it, Victoria gave up, burying her flaming face directly into my chest in total defeat. Fine, I'm a stalker. I'm creepy. So what? It's your fault for being so dense. Do you know how many times I dropped hints and you just completely ignored them? I did. Yes. I deliberately lent you my umbrella, so you'd have to come to my apartment to return it, and you just left it with the RA downstairs. The memory clicked. Oh, and that time I told you my laptop was broken, so you can fix it? I specifically wore fishnet stockings for that. You fixed the motherboard in 10 minutes, left immediately, and told me my desk was too messy. I mean, it was really messy. Liam Carter. Completely humiliated, she opened her mouth and bit down hard on my chest. I winced, but only pulled her tighter against me. Okay, I'm sorry. I kissed the top of her damp hair. Thank you for not tranquilizing me and locking me in a basement. There's still time to lock you up, she muttered into my shirt. No need. I'm already your willing hostage. You don't even need the locks. The honeymoon phase hadn't lasted long before we had to deal with the separation. Victoria had a scheduled trip out of the country to visit extended family. The flights were booked months in advance, and she couldn't get out of it. At Logan Airport, Victoria clung to me like a koala, outright refusing to let go. Her eyes were rimmed red with tears, completely indifferent to the bewildered stares of the TSA agents and passengers around us. Can I just cancel? I don't trust leaving you alone. I have hands and feet, babe. I'm not going to starve, I said, gently wiping a tear from her cheek. Plus, I have finals coming up. I'm worried that the second I leave, some little hussy is going to try and steal you. Relax. With a terrifying guardian angel like you claiming me, what girl is going to risk her life coming near me? They have a death wish. You have to FaceTime me every day, morning, noon, and night. Do not miss a single one. Got it. 3 times a day. Don't look at other girls. Don't offer to carry any underclassmen's bags. Don't. Are you going to tell me not to breathe next? I teased. She glared at me, then pulled me down by the collar and bit my lip hard, stamping my property. I'm leaving. After watching her walk through security, I drove back to the massive, empty penthouse. My first instinct, freedom. Finally. No one nagging me to get off the Xbox. No one force-feeding me weird, organic stamina soups. No one stealing the blankets at 3 a.m. No one harassing me for sex every time I walked out of the bathroom. I immediately ordered a massive bucket of fried chicken, cracked open a Coke, and plopped onto the rug to game until sunrise. Absolute bliss. However, the bliss expired exactly around 2 a.m. I clutched a clutch victory in my game, spun around to brag about it, and found empty air. The penthouse was dead silent. I used to think this luxury condo was the coolest thing ever. Now the massive space just felt suffocatingly hollow. I took a shower. Nobody banged on the door, telling me to hurry up. I climbed into bed. The king-size mattress felt like an Arctic tundra. I tossed and turned. I was too used to having a warm body tangled up in my limbs. I missed the weight of her leg thrown over my waist. I missed that aggressive, subtle perfume. I let out a long sigh, sat up, and dragged Victoria's pillow into my arms, burying my face in it and taking a massive breath. I was pathetic. She'd only been gone a few hours, and I was already losing my mind. My phone lit up. Incoming FaceTime. I swiped to answer. Victoria's face filled the screen, framed by the bright blue sky of a European morning. She immediately dropped into the sickly sweet baby voice. Miss me? I looked at the screen, putting on a brave face. Nope, liar. She pointed an accusing finger through the camera at the pillow clutched to my chest. Then why are you hugging my pillow like your life depends on it? My ears went hot, and I violently tossed the pillow off the bed. I was just making sure it didn't get dusty. Victoria's laughter bubbled through the speaker. Liam Carter, is it really that painful for you to admit you miss me? I looked at her bright, beaming smile on the screen. Yeah, I mumbled quietly. I miss you. What part of me do you miss? Chapter 4. I don't know, but I definitely don't miss your gourmet lobster tail. Whatever. I don't believe you, she said, her eyes softening. Be a good boy and wait for me. When I get back, I'll feed you until you're stuffed. Every part of you. I understood the double meaning immediately, and my face practically caught fire again. The day before Victoria was scheduled to fly back, my phone buzzed with an unexpected call. Mia Thompson, the childhood friend who had inspired the female lead in my web novel, and the girl I had harbored a massive crush on in high school. Liam, it's an emergency. Can we meet up? Her voice was tight with tears. I debated it for a moment, but eventually agreed. We had grown up together. I couldn't just leave her hanging. We agreed to meet at a coffee shop near campus. The moment I sat down, Mia reached across the table and grabbed my hand. Liam, you have to save me. I instinctively yanked my hand back. What's going on? What happened? This exact exchange was perfectly witnessed by a woman in the booth directly behind me, completely disguised in a trench coat, sunglasses, and a baseball cap pulled low. Victoria had literally just gotten off a transatlantic flight and rushed straight here, hoping to surprise me. Instead, she walked in on this. She gripped the metal spoon in her hand, so hard it practically bent in half. Oh, hell no, Liam Carter. The second I leave the country, you're sneaking around with your old flame? She was 3 seconds away from throwing off the disguise, marching over, and delivering a soap opera-level slap to establish dominance as the legal wife. But then, she heard Mia sobbing. Liam, I'm trying to marry my girlfriend, but my parents froze my accounts. We don't have the money for the plane tickets to elope. Could you please loan me some cash? The air in the coffee shop froze for 3 solid seconds. Victoria's foot, which had been mid-stride, awkwardly retracted under her table. I was completely blindsided. Girlfriend? Yeah. Mia pulled out her iPhone and showed me a photo of her with a stunning girl sporting a sharp pixie cut. We want to go overseas and get the marriage certificate, but my family is threatening to disown me. I've always thought of you as an older brother, Liam. You're my only hope. If you help us, we'll owe you for the rest of our lives. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Right at that exact moment, a woman in a trench coat and sunglasses suddenly slammed a thick stack of $100 bills down onto our table. Take it. Take whatever you need. Victoria whipped off her sunglasses, radiating the aura of a philanthropic billionaire. I'm funding this. I wish you two a lifetime of happiness. May you have beautiful chill. Wait, no. May your love last an eternity. Mia jumped in her seat. Who is this? I dragged a hand down my face in utter defeat. That's my wife. Victoria dropped the act entirely, wrapping her arms securely around my neck from behind. That's right. I'm his wife. Listen, sister, I deeply respect your courage to pursue true love. Take this money. If it's not enough to get you to the altar, call me. Mia took the cash, thanked us about 50 times, and practically sprinted out of the cafe, leaving me and Victoria staring at each other. Did you tail me again? I narrowed my eyes. Victoria stood her ground, unapologetic. I was performing a routine fidelity inspection, and I ended up performing a charitable act. Was that charity, or were you just aggressively funding the removal of a perceived romantic rival? I can't believe you used to have a crush on her. Your taste was terrible, she scoffed before adding. But clearly you never stood a chance anyway. She's incredibly gay. I didn't even like her like that. The readers love the childhood friend trope, so I made her the female lead. I rolled my eyes. Wait, are you a lesbian? She reached down and pinched my ear hard. What is wrong with your brain? If I were gay, would you have survived the last 2 months in my bed? I would have kicked you to the floor on night 1. Ow, ow. Wife, let go. We're going home. I need to do a thorough, full-body inspection to ensure you didn't entertain any other stray flowers. While I was gone, I'm checking the inventory. Valentine's Day. I deliberately placed a piece of paper on the living room coffee table. It was the original fake marriage contract, the one Victoria had ripped to shreds, which I'd spent hours painstakingly taping back together. When Victoria walked in from work and saw that jagged, taped-up document, all the color drained from her face. The gift box she was holding dropped onto the rug with a soft thud. What is this? Her eyes flooded with tears instantly. The fearless, domineering CEO facade shattered into a million pieces. I sat back on the sofa, doing my absolute best to maintain a stoic, serious expression. The contract is void. Our marriage was just an act. Shouldn't we honor the agreement and go file the divorce papers? I'm not divorcing you. Victoria absolutely exploded. She lunged across the table, grabbed the taped-up contract, and started frantically ripping it apart again. When tearing it wasn't enough, she literally started shoving the paper into her mouth. There is no contract. There never was. I destroyed it. She sobbed hysterically, chewing on the paper. Liam Carter, you belong to me. Even in death, you are mine. If you try to leave, I'll break your legs. I will lock you in the basement. I'll fund your entire life, but you are never leaving. She was genuinely terrified. It was the raw, unrestrained panic of someone who thought they were about to lose their entire world. Watching her break down like that physically hurt my chest. I couldn't keep the act up for another second. I lunged forward and grabbed her jaw. Spit that out. It's dirty tape and ink. She kept crying, her whole body trembling, her jaw clamped shut like a vice. No, if I swallow it, the evidence is gone forever. Okay, there's no evidence. You don't have to swallow it. I pulled her into my arms, wrapping her in a tight hug and rubbing her back. You absolute idiot. I was messing with you. That wasn't funny, she wailed, burying her face into my shoulder and biting down with all the strength she possessed. I winced at the sharp pain, but didn't push her away. Once her breathing finally leveled out and the trembling stopped, I reached into my pocket and pulled out a small red velvet box. I dropped to one knee, right there, amidst the shredded, spit-covered remnants of our fake contract. Victoria Sterling, the contract is officially voided. So now, it's my turn to propose to you properly. Will you let me? Since you refuse to divorce me, let's remove the fake from our arrangement entirely. Be my real wife. Boss me around for the rest of my life. What do you say? Victoria froze completely. She stared at the sparkling diamond ring, then down at me. She was a total mess. A literal snot bubble had formed by her nose. She looked absolutely nothing like the untouchable Ice Queen. You're a bastard, she sobbed, aggressively shoving her left hand toward my face. Put it on me. Once it's on, you can never take it off. Whoever takes it off is a dog. I smiled, sliding the diamond onto her ring finger. A perfect fit. Woof! I barked without a second of hesitation. For the rest of this life, I'm your loyal dog. Victoria let out a watery, beautiful laugh. She tackled me backward onto the rug, kissing me with a frantic, fiery desperation. Loyal dogs need to be fed meat. And tonight, I'm eating my fill. At my graduation ceremony a year later, Victoria, now a successful alumni, had been invited back to give a speech. Standing at the podium in a tailored suit, radiating confidence and grace, she was still the unattainable goddess every guy in the audience was drooling over. But the second her speech ended, she grabbed the microphone and broke script. Liam Carter, don't you dare leave after the ceremony. Meet me at the courthouse. We're getting our real marriage license. No contracts this time. Surrounded by the utterly devastated and jealous glares of my entire graduating class, I just threw my head back and laughed. This woman, always doing the absolute most. But God, I loved it. The wedding we threw was extravagantly massive. Mr. Sterling spent the entire reception grinning from ear to ear, looking like a man who had successfully unloaded a ticking time bomb onto a bomb squad rookie. My old roommate, Josh, got blackout drunk and spent 20 minutes clinging to my pant leg, sobbing hysterically. Bro, you really did it. You married into high society. Don't forget the little guys who survived the dorms with you. You have to ask your wife if she has any rich billionaire friends for me. I want the sugar baby life, too. Our wedding night. There was no tension, no testing the waters, no contracts. Just overwhelming warmth and absolute certainty. Victoria lay with her head resting on my chest, lazily twirling my fingers in hers. The new wedding bands caught the dim light of the bedroom. Hubby, who's going to be in charge of the household from now on? I pretended to think about it deeply, puffing up my chest like a 1950s patriarch. I'll handle the massive, global issues. You handle the trivial, day-to-day stuff. What counts as a massive issue? You know, whether the sun is going to explode, who wins the next presidential election, when humanity colonizes Mars, whether Spider-Man is going to defeat the next supervillain. She let out a snort of laughter, her eyes practically swimming with affection. And what counts as the trivial stuff? Who manages the bank accounts, what last name the kids get, and how many rounds we go tonight? She shifted, sliding elegantly over my hips to straddle me, her fingertips tracing slow circles over my heart. Well, I think we can settle that last trivial matter right now. I'm a firm believer that more is always better. 2 days later, I was begging for my life. Time out. Give me a break. Let's go again in an hour. By the way, you claimed it was love at first sight, but honestly, weren't you just plotting to get me into bed this whole time? Victoria flashed a wickedly clever smile. Obviously, isn't that how the real world works? Love at first sight is just a polite way of saying, I wanted to sleep with you immediately. Building feelings over time is just weighing the pros and cons. Love starts with a pretty face, deepens with someone's talent, anchors itself in physical chemistry, and gets addicted to the sound of their voice. And in the end, it either compromises for money or it loses to reality. Lucky for you, I've got the money covered. Years later, a little girl with pigtails pointed a chubby finger at the massive framed wedding photo on our living room wall. She looked up at me with massive, innocent eyes. Daddy, why is Mommy smiling like a sneaky fox? I scooped her up into my arms, tapped her on the nose, and looked up at the photograph of the incredibly smug Victoria. Because, sweetie, she finally caught the rabbit she'd been hunting for years. But I'll tell you a secret. She's not really a fox. I pointed to the version of Victoria in the picture, the one trying to look commanding but utterly glowing with joy. Don't you think Mommy's smile looks more like a happy Shiba Inu? Your mom is just a big, scheming dog. My daughter giggled and clapped her hands. Yeah, Mommy is a dog. I leaned in and whispered conspiringly. Your mom was super sneaky. She totally scammed your dad into marrying her, and that's how we got you. So if you ever misbehave, I'm packing my bags and leaving you both. What are you two whispering about? Victoria walked into the living room carrying a plate of sliced fruit. The years hadn't taken a single thing from her. If anything, she was even more breathtaking. Just telling her that I've been living the kept man lifestyle for years, and the food has never tasted better. I wrapped my free arm around her waist and pressed a kiss to her cheek. Victoria popped a piece of melon into my mouth, her eyes glinting with a familiar, dangerous heat. Then shouldn't you hurry up and put our daughter to bed? I want a late-night snack tonight. Ever since we had her, I haven't been getting my midnight meals. I understood the assignment immediately. I practically sprinted down the hall with our daughter toward the nursery. Time for sleep, kiddo. Daddy has to go clock in for his late-night shift. Story complete.